that time, which would have been the first one, the Sumerians and stuff, that would have been worldwide. Therefore, we see Akkadian and Sumerian type stuff all over the world. And of course, before the flood, we have stuff all over the world. So yeah, this particular video that I'm thinking of, they were actually calling America Atlantis. And that it was called Egypt before the days of Peleg. So I'm like, okay, it could have been. I mean, because
I didn't live there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the days of Moses, we know where Egypt, where the base of Egypt.
A lot of Americans tend to get stuck in this mindset that the Native Americans lived here forever, and that they were just, you know, one with the land and Husa and all of that. And so therefore we don't have a lot of ancient buildings, ancient structures, even though Mexico has them, South America has them. The fact is, we do have ancient structures. We do have unexplained buildings and walls. Americans don't give a flip, though. We're doing our own thing. So,
well, and we've had
are usually covering it up.
Yeah, so, we've had a certain museum that has consistently stolen or destroyed artifacts that would have proved in that. And then a lot of stuff is
Smith and Romanian.
Yes. And honestly, in America, something big happened because we have mostly devastation here. So,
and the Native Americans all have stories, and especially the southern ones that lived in the southern states. So you have, even in Florida and stuff, they had a lot of stories. The conquistadors also.
Oh yeah, when they came over here, they didn't find nothing.
Conquistador journals, whenever they came up here looking for the city of gold, which is supposedly, according to the Mayans, the people leading them up here, was, and then their own recording of their journey up here, supposedly somewhere in Kansas is where they got led, but then couldn't find it. And then the Native Americans were like, yeah, that got wiped out. So the Native Americans, it doesn't really matter what tribe you go to, their stories, they all have stories about cataclysm happening. And so I think
there's a reason the Great Plains,
whenever the conquistadors came up here, the Native Americans were like, yo, where have you been at? And you can go read this in the journals, okay? I do recommend you go read conquistador journals. They're weird and very fascinating. So, and a little unhinged sometimes. They were Spaniards. Take that for what it's worth. So, anyway, but whenever they came up here, a lot of the tribes were like, yo, where have you been at? And they're like, what are you talking about? We've never been here. This is new territory. And they're like, no, it's not. We used to do trade with you guys. Blew the conquistador's mind, the one who was writing it. How we have never done trade with you. And they're like, well, yeah, not you. You weren't born yet. But your people from where you came from. And then like one of the old chiefs described people from Europe coming over and talking about different boats and stuff. And even, I think, if I remember correctly, even ended up, I can't remember fully, but he described some stuff in fairly good detail that made them go, maybe we were over here at one time. So the Native Americans in North America, once they got out of Mexico, were kind of like, cool, you're back. So we can start trade again. And then talked about how there had been a lot of cataclysm that had happened. The Native Americans were like, we don't know where you guys disappeared to. You guys just quit coming over at one point. So I kind of think roughly on their time frames, like the Black Plague happened and there was a lot of chaos in Europe going on, a lot of people dying very quickly, a lot of information getting lost. So I think that's possibly what happened. But then the Native Americans had their own stuff going on too, to the point of they'd had so much going on, according to them, that whenever the Mayans, the Incans and Mayans basically began to lose their minds and start sacrificing people in droves, they literally broke the road between them at some point in Mexico, and was like, they're not we ceased doing trade with them in the South because they are practicing things that are going to get people wiped out.
Well,
it's going
and
to bring destruction to us. And then they would reference the my brain just went blank.
I'm sorry.
The tribes that went missing here.
Oh yeah,
their cliff dwellings. The
Anasazis.
So they even referenced the Anasazi and was like, they were doing the same practices
and wiped themselves out
as those in the South, and they got wiped out.
Well,
so the Native Americans are like,
don't do that. Yeah, well, and we've been taught the Anasazi just disappeared off the face of the earth. But if you look at, Bandelier Canyon and some of those places, and you look at it with new eyes, and you see it as like melted buildings, which is probably what it is. Then did we have because there are places in the United States that look like Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah have been found. They've been identified. We know what they are. And they surround the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is dead because Sodom and Gomorrah.
Again, one of the things, so for a long time, I thought the Anasazi, just like anyone else who have seen the cliff dwellings and gone, what happened to them? And everybody's like, I don't know, they just disappeared. Whenever you dig into Native American myths and legends, no, the freaking Navajo know exactly what happened to them. That blew my mind, running across the Navajo myth, that there were like one or two survivors who fled and said that they had been participating in human sacrifice and rituals and had summoned forth a monster or a demon or something. Something happened, completely wiped out the tribe. And then whenever they went to, the warriors got together and were like, whatever that is, we don't want it. And went to investigate, sent the women and children in the tribe to someplace the opposite direction. Then we're going to go investigate. Cleaned out. And a few dead bodies. So, whenever you start digging into, that is the unfortunate thing with our education system, with our history system here in America. We like to have this kind of oxymoron thing going on where, we want you to think that the Native Americans were so much better than you, and we came and we kicked them.
Primitive at the same time. They were
I want you to think that they're primitive at the same time. Nothing more than a bunch of naked savages.
Exactly.
But then whenever you actually, and then never get into the actual stories of the tribes.
Well, and there's different
oral history.
Right. And there's different, they look at each other differently, even today. So being raised the way I was, I was taught that the Southern natives down toward Louisiana and Mexico area had, the dark magic. And the northern natives up, Canada, Montana way were more connected with the land, or tried to be more connected with the land. And of course, we know that they've been moved around and shuffled a lot, but that goes hand in hand with what they were saying, And so many, like the conquistadors, the Spanish, they settled in the worst of it. But, there's this whole thing going on the last several years of, Christopher Columbus was such a terrible person, bringing gonorrhea to the natives, and, the conquistadors were so awful and everything. Wait. It's kind of like people picking on the Bible and the genocide in the Bible. God gives judgment. And we need to quit preaching God is love type of thing. Yes, he is, but he's a just and loving God. And they were sacrificing their own. They were depleting their population. They were sacrificing and eating their own people. Okay. And by bringing in, and, and God works in mysterious ways. Okay. So he brought down their people who they could accept because they had multiple deities. So with the Catholics, they didn't have a problem with the Catholics, with the saints. So the Catholics come in with their saints and they're like, hey, here's an alternative, this is better, and helped clean things up. In the process, the Catholics, founded things, which means they found stuff, and dubbed it Catholic. And then some of the things that they found, I have no doubt they did build churches on, and in order to hide things and whatnot, because the Vatican is just as good as the Smithsonian at burying, hiding, and covering things up. So there is that.
Build a church on it.
Right.
and there's also just a point of, throughout history, you see that whoever is the victor, if they don't like your story, they're covering it up. There's very few instances in the world where we have not seen that happen.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that everything that they say is wrong. Okay? The enemy will give you 90% of truth and a little bit of lie so that he can slip it in there. Okay? So our job is to decipher between the truth and the lies. And it's kind of hard to do.
Except that we might not ever know the full story.
That's right.
We can't get stuck on this is the way it was and this is the way it has to be, because we weren't there. We don't know.
And you can't throw the parts. Yeah. And you can't throw out the parts that you just don't like.
Yeah.
So you need to go in and actually read the original documents, look at what was actually happening at the time, look at the evidence of what is here. There is no way during the Civil War America built a whole bunch of star forts, most of which would have had no tactical reason or strategic reason for them being where they're at and built the way they are. So no, we do have things that were still here. We have, the Mormons even say in their history, in their older history, and I've had some people leave comments in some of my videos saying, oh yeah, we were taught that they found the temple. They found Salt Lake City. They didn't build Salt Lake City. There is no way that a couple of
the Great Salt Lake and everything that goes right in line with Lot,
the Dead Sea, and
salt.
Yes, and the cities of the plain. Exactly. It goes exactly in line with it. So yeah, there is no way that a couple of hundred, you know, Mormons went there and built a huge castle asylum. And I mean, there's some huge buildings that were supposedly built within 10, 15 years time of them
the
founding.
wind and the rain. It was fine.
Can you hear him?
Kind of.
I'm getting commentary from the background. We've got extra
And
commentary.
not all of this is not to say, so a lot of the conspiracy theory community, the Nephilim community, the old world community, whatever they want to call themselves, a lot of them tend to act like humans could never have done that. And kind of going back to what we were bringing up before, the Native Americans weren't just a bunch of naked savages who were.
And if you go back to the original drawings, you will see that.
Yeah.
They were fully clothed. They had boots.
Humans are capable of great things, slapping things together, building ingenious things. We are completely capable.
But the Native Americans in general don't take the credit for some of these buildings and cities. They avoided them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So there's a
the Russians do take credit.
Read the stories, and not just one or two, but all of the stories. Read all of the stories and decide what's really gonna makes sense here and what doesn't. And then humans also are lazy creatures. We don't like starting from scratch. And it is so much easier to
pillage off of what's left.
And
we have consistently
build it up.
Yeah, and we build on tells. So you've got tells in the Middle East. You've got tells in Rome, you've got tells in Greece, where these cities were built on top of each other, right? Why would we not have that here, especially when there's underground Chicago, underground Seattle, underground LA? Yeah, we've got that here too.
The Cheyenne, a lot of tribes, but I know the Cheyenne have lots of stories about underground cities, underground people. They even have an underground deity. So they had the wise one who lives above, and I can't remember his name, but they had the creator who lives above, and then they had a god that lives below in the earth. And they had a lot of stories about people in both realms. The sky people, a lot of tribes had stories about the sky people, and a lot of them have stories about the earth, the people beneath the earth. And so, it just, but kind of, going back, humans aren't stupid. We're not incapable of building amazing cathedrals and castles and towers and all sorts of cool stuff. But we're also lazy, and like Jericho is an excellent archaeological example. There's been like 7 Jerichos built all on top of each other. They keep finding more the further they dig down. So, and you can argue that maybe we don't do things as well as pre-flood, maybe even post-flood people did. I kind of agree. I think we're getting there. And you can argue about how we're getting there all you like. We don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Well, we
make our best educated guesses.
We have the law of, degradation. And there are things that the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
And there are things
who loves to study humanity's behaviors. Each human is a unique individual, but humanity as a whole is absolutely predictable.
Right. Well, and before the flood, you had people living 800-900 years. So what could a person accomplish in 800 or 900 years?
If you're living to be 700 years old, you had better build a house that's going to live through a worldwide flood. If not, you dumb. Why you live in this land? Why you breathing air?
And then immediately after the flood, people still did live, quite not that long, but still quite a while. So yeah, there's a lot of potential there.